government does when it comes to arresting people or, putting them in jail or fabricating evidence or framing them like they've tried to do to us. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of difference between government and at least in terms of power and capability.
I want to go to some phone calls for William Binney here and also go through this huge list of Twitter questions that we have. Let's go ahead and talk to Joseph in Texas. Joseph, you're on the air with William Binney.
Hi. I wanted to call in and talk to you guys about, I'm a hairdresser in Dallas, and I had a client for a little while this year who was he was the VP for the manufacturer that created the NSA Center in Utah. And he gave me a lot of, he told me as much as I guess he could about when they were building it and about this data center. And I also have another friend of mine who just recently met, he works with AT&T on the neural networks collecting the data. So I wanted to ask some questions and just see if, I could get an answer from him. I was basically told just that the NSA data center, that they were spying on, everything from our cell phones to our banks, everything, connecting it all. And after I heard that, I actually heard a documentary with, from, it was like the Operation Stellar Wind documentary. And so I just wanted to hear about that.
Mr. Binney?
Yeah, that's the whole point of why they had to build Bluffdale with all that storage. I mean, it wasn't for metadata. It was for content of communications, like all of your emails and phone conversation recordings and transcripts and things like that. I mean, the point is, if you wanted to put together all of the relationships of everybody in the world on metadata relationships and build those kind of what they're called graphs or simply social networks of everybody in every domain, phone calls, emails, banking, all of that, then you could do that and store it in a room 20 foot by 40 foot. That's all it would take to store all of the relationships and all the domains of everybody in the world. So, and you could keep it there for, 50 years perhaps, something like that. And so the real point was the hundreds of thousands of square feet of storage was needed for the content, and that's where the bulk of data is. That's where the bulk of information is, and that's what takes an awful lot of storage up. The rest of it is not doesn't take that much storage.
That's right. In Utah and Texas, that's a key point. When they lie and say we're just keeping metadata, they consider everything to be metadata. It's a lawyer's game they're playing. Thank you, Joseph. Let's go ahead and take another call. Let's talk to Dominique in California. You're on the air.
Hey there, William. I got a question about who they're kind of watching now. I videotaped a jet laying some geoengineering trails out the other day, and some webs started falling from the trail, and I got it all on tape, and I got a lot of samples of these webs falling from the sky. And my question is, are they monitoring geoengineering activists such as myself? Because I've been telling a lot of people about this and trying to get the word out there. And I'm kind of getting a little worried.
Well, I don't think you heard him. Everything's being recorded and monitored. And now I don't think they mind that it's out as a chilling effect. It's illegal what they're doing. We need to stop it, but it doesn't intimidate me and doesn't shut down my speech. William Binney, do you have any information? Thank you, Dominic. Do you have any information on geoengineering, climate manipulation?
Well, I would think that that's one of the things they're certainly monitoring all kinds of research done around the world. For example, one of the best ways to find out who's working on quantum computing is to, for example, go to a quantum computing conference around the world and just go around and collect business cards. And you find that sets up a community, and then you work the transactional relationships you're getting across the network to build their social network of who they're working with to work on quantum computing. And I'm sure they would do the same thing for any kind of climate alterations and so on. I mean, any kind of serious research that's going on that would have implications on a wider scale, they certainly would be monitoring just to watch to make sure they knew what was happening.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Julio in Wyoming.
Merry Christmas Merry Christmas to you all. It's funny, Mr. Benny, you mentioned about collecting business cards and going to those conferences, that caller that mentioned geoengineering. That's what I've done, Mr. Benny. I've gone to these conferences, collected business cards, spoke to people in geoengineering, and I agree people need to do that. I want to mention this document briefly before I get to my question. I think it's cute. The NSA is trying to attract children through their Change the World program, which includes solving fun puzzles and exploring the world of cryptology. I think that's kind of cute with the Change the World program. You mentioned about blackmail. It's quite clear bureaucracies and totalitarian agencies like the NSA are using blackmail to their advantage. My question is, how deep does that rabbit hole go? And I spoke to someone who's a contractor in Colorado Springs last week who told me there's a lot of movement from these types of agencies moving towards Colorado Springs and other parts of the
Sure, that's where the alternate government's based. Thank you for the call. That's a lot of questions there. But blackmail, you already spoke to that, but what else can you tell us about blackmail, William Benny?
Well, the problem, of course, is that once you have all that data, that's the power that data gives you. I mean, if you have information let me use an example. I was on the Elliot Spitzer show on Current TV when he was on the show there. And he was at. I mean, he never told me this, but I've been inferenced it to him. He was after the bankers after the 2008 banking fiasco, and a lot of people lost a lot of money there, and that was because of fraudulent solicitations by the banks passing around packaged mortgage groups and things like that. And so he was going after them criminally. He was, I think, the governor of New York State at the time. And as a part of that, all of a sudden the FBI was going through all of his emails and his my financial transactions and so on, and they found where he was engaged with a prostitute, and they used that to get rid of him. So the point is that the FBI didn't even show probable cause as to why they were doing it. The probable cause was they wanted him stopping. They didn't want him criminally prosecuting the bankers in Wall Street. That's what the whole motive was. And so the people who did that, I mean, Mueller was the director of FBI at the time, and Alexander was the director of NSA. So the FBI went into the database of emails that Mueller testified to the Senate Judiciary Committee that he had access to. Back in the 30th of March of 2011, he testified to the Senate Judiciary Committee that he had access to this database where he could make a query and get all past and all future emails as they came in on a person. Well, I mean, when the FBI goes into all those back emails, I mean, looking at data, for example, against Elliot Spitzer to get rid of him, then they were the ones who helped the bankers out to keep them out of trouble. So then you have Mueller and Alexander after they retire, and they're selling their expertise in cybersecurity. And who are they selling it to at the rate of $600,000 a month or something like that? Originally they started at $1 million, but now they're selling that to, I believe, the last I heard, it was the bankers. Well, to me, that's when I took contract law into government, I mean, one of the first things you made sure you did not do was to give the appearance of a conflict of interest. Now, that sure smells like a conflict of interest.
Sure, you've got a select group of banks that control the Federal Reserve that already issue and control the currency. Now they're using the NSA that they help government build to domestically target everybody, steal data, corner the markets, and just take everything over.
And get rid of people who are trying to hold you accountable.
It's a criminal takeover. There's no debating it.
Right.
Zach Tamount asks, that's his Twitter name, ask William Benny, what does Mr. Benny think about people waking up to spying, but also the smart TVs that, for those that don't know, Samsung admits that they, quote, record what you say in your house and send it to third parties for, quote, marketing. What do you think of just the mainlining of total spying?
I mean, for me, that is an intrusion, an unauthorized intrusion, and it's a felony, and they should be charged criminally with it.
Kavik on Twitter asks, how closely does Canada's CSE work with the NSA, or is it more a data sharing agreement?
Actually, actually, this has been documented. It's in some of the documentation that Snowden had provided and has been published. They are basically it's an outgrowth of the World War II effort of the English-speaking countries. That's the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Now, the U.S. is called First Party, and the other 4 are called Second Party. That was the closest relationship in history in World War II. They worked together jointly on breaking Enigma codes and also the Japanese Purple Code and the JN-25 Naval Code. And those relationships only expanded from there, and the cooperations have been very close. It's the closest cooperating group of countries in the world.
Mikhail Phelan, Infowars.com writer, at Mikhail Phelan on Twitter, asks, others have mentioned power struggle between the NSA and other intel groups, such as the CIA. Can you expand on that? Hashtag NSA Insider.
Yeah, there always was. I mean, even before 9/11, I mean, that was part of I think the 9/11 Commission's report was they need to work a little closer and be a little less rivalry, kind of. They reduce the rivalry. The point is that there are certain charters that these agencies have, like the CIA's to do HUMINT, the NSA's to do SIGINT, Signals Intelligence, and they jealously guard their charters. And if they come up with information in their areas, that's like knowledge they have that they can directly provide to senior leadership, the president, and so on for decision making. So that makes them that gives them the sense that they have greater influence in the government and what it does and what the president would decide to do by being able to control or to have the most significant intelligence information to present. So that creates a rivalry between the agencies, and that's been going on for decades. I mean, that's nothing new. The CIA does it, NSA does it, they all do it. So to a certain degree, and that was part of the problem that the 9/11 Commission found.
Sure.
So, that's certainly an issue. A rivalry between these agencies is one that is a fundamental flaw or that destroys some of the capabilities that they should have in terms of sharing knowledge so that everybody can be leveraging the same set of information.
William Benny, we have another question for you from Twitter. F.W. Partica asks, how would you change the NSA so it would be a positive department?
First of all, I mean, we submitted 21 recommendations to the President of the United States in January this year. It's an open letter. It's on the web. And those recommendations, the 2 primary points in those recommendations, one was to force NSA to make a directed selection of information on known targets and things in a zone of suspicion defined around it. So that would mean that they would only pull in maybe they would let 99.99999% of the data pass by and only pull out and store that data that was relevant to targets that they were after. And
I'm going to blow up the Eiffel Tower. That would be grabbed.
That would focus them in on their targets, and that would make a rich environment for their analysts to succeed. And we would actually be able to stop things like the Boston bombing or even 9/11. I mean, they had all the data to stop 9/11. They just couldn't.
William, you've been so gracious giving us 50-something minutes. Let me talk to you during this break and see if you can stay a little bit longer to finish that statement and take a few more calls. I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you stay with us?
Yeah, sure I can.
Unbelievable. Third hour coming up with the top NSA whistleblower.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
The average person's life is filled with unexpected challenges. Unlock the energy it takes to defeat these daily beasts with super male or super female vitality, specifically designed to assist the body in regulating proper hormone balance to create superior vitality in males and females. Supercharge and conquer your world at InfoWarsLife.com or call 1-888-253-3139.
The government's Department of Homeland Security is buying up loads of ammo. At the same time, they're restricting civilians' rights to own and purchase firearms. Can you put two and two together? Infidel Body Armor can stop every round, including hollow points and .308 sniper rounds, is reasonably priced and fully legal. But for how long? Go to InfidelBodyArmor.com, spelled INFIDEL bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor just won't quit.